This chart shows the projected Title IV eligibility for comprehensive cosmetology programs in 2026. 98% of these programs are expected to fail the new federal benchmarks. This cliff is driven by two federal measures, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act and the Student Tuition and Transparency System. These regulations enforce a strict mathematical rule. To offer federal student aid, an institution must prove that its graduates' early career earnings are sufficient to support the debt they take on. The problem lies in the legacy architecture of beauty training. For decades, the industry has relied on a comprehensive cosmetology-first curriculum built to prepare students for a single broad license. We are looking at a multi-billion-dollar framework bound to state occupational licensing and local labor economics. Today, shifting macroeconomic labor demands are colliding with an educational structure that requires students to take on heavy federal debt. School closures are a mathematical result of these accountability standards, despite stable consumer demand. The legacy educational architecture cannot survive the new formulas. To maintain aid eligibility, undergraduate certificate programs face a strict gainful employment benchmark. They must demonstrate that their graduates out-earn working adults who only hold a high school diploma. This represents the first specific test, the debt-to-earnings metric. It mandates that a graduate's annual loan payment cannot exceed 8% of annual earnings. If a program fails, it faces an alternative measure. The annual loan payment must remain below 20% of the graduate's discretionary income. Let us apply those specific thresholds to the traditional comprehensive cosmetology pathway. Comprehensive students spend 18 months paying $20,000, accruing $7,000 in debt, for a median wage of $35,250. Estheticians require half the training in debt, yet earn an 18% higher wage of $41,560. Nail techs enter in 2 to 6 months, avoiding high debt entirely. Consumers are driving this shift. The demand for highly specialized luxury services has pushed the projected job growth for these specific roles to 7. This extended timeline forces students to perform prolonged unpaid labor, exhausts their federal financial aid limits, and delays their transition to active income. This rigid clock-hour tracking system exerts a heavy sociological toll, disproportionately affecting non-traditional and rural students. This flowchart maps the spatial barrier system rural students face: daily commutes of 50 miles or more, a lack of broadband for hybrid learning, and a childcare gap that costs the economy billions in lost productivity. The clinic revenue model effectively trades student time for institutional profit. This leads to high attrition rates among the low-income and rural populations who require accessible routes to self-employment. Navigating the 2026 landscape requires moving away from the Title IV dependent corporate model toward localized, debt-free structures. The Louisville Beauty Academy serves as an observable proof model for a high-return, non-Title IV educational architecture. The Academy removes student debt from the equation through a pay-as-you-go structure, utilizing flexible monthly payment plans and low initial deposits instead of federal loans. This is managed through a written control standard. Strict digital contracts protect students from debt and insulate institutions from regulatory risks tied to federal aid. The pedagogy also diverges from traditional models. The Academy provides instruction and exams in a fully multilingual environment, supporting English, Vietnamese, and Spanish. This approach facilitates business creation among immigrant populations, who launch micro-businesses at quadruple the standard rate when language barriers are removed. The model accommodates adult learners through flexible, part-time scheduling and community-embedded facilities that bypass traditional geographic barriers. By operating outside the federal student aid system, an institution is forced to compete on actual student outcomes. The result is lower attrition, higher completion rates, and immediate financial independence for graduates. The legacy comprehensive cosmetology-first model is obsolete. State and federal investments must transition to workforce development models that provide a measurable return. The first necessary policy shift is at the state level. Regulatory boards must establish modular, specialty-first licensure structures that unbundle hair, skin, and nail training. Unbundling these disciplines reduces student debt, shortens the time to workforce entry, and insulates programs from gainful employment failures. The second policy shift focuses on expanding registered apprenticeship programs as a viable alternative to Title IV funding. Historically, standard apprenticeships have suffered from structural flaws. They often require double the training hours of a traditional school and face inconsistent sponsor quality. This timeline illustrates a modernized solution, a hybrid credit system supported by Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act funds. Apprentices accumulate theory hours in a low-cost, structured classroom setting, while logging practical clinic hours under a paid salon sponsor, earning a wage as they learn. This sector operates on the humanization model. The physical, empathetic nature of personal care vocations makes these careers resistant to automation and artificial intelligence displacement. By moving past the legacy Title IV model and adopting modular, debt-free hybrid training, policymakers can rebuild beauty education as a functioning route to rural upward mobility.